we're starting.
Wow.
Hey.
Welcome.
So, all right. In keeping with our history, this is Ski and Sell Out with Max Doilney and Lauren Angerosa. And today we have my dad, Jim Doilney, here. He's going to be the first of sort of the originators of Park City, or at least of the Park City that we know. Because as I go around and interview or talk to people about the book that I'm writing, I've been leaning into this generation of people that come from the 60s and 70s and 80s of Park City, when really you had to take your turn serving on different boards and commissions because nobody else would do it. And
There was a little of that, yeah.
a lot of my stories come from you, frankly. I mean, they come from the years and years of us driving around or flying around the world and doing stuff together. And Lauren has been waiting patiently for our interview with you because every time I say something and I'm like, my dad told me this story, she goes, "Oh, I can't wait to talk to Jim."
For the love, when is he coming on?
Wow.
Today.
So we're here. It's Jim Doilney, and he moved here when? And why don't we start there?
Labor Day of 1974 was the first permanent move, but I started coming here in 1971, and right away knew I wanted to be here.
How did you find Park City?
My first training wife, Diane, a beautiful lady, was an American Airlines stewardess. They had stewardesses before they had flight attendants.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in graduate school and I could fly free to Salt Lake City. And she and I would come out and we stayed in what's the Claim Jumper building now. She'd stay in the girls' dorm and I'd stay in the boys' dorm, but usually we got to sleep together because we were the only people there. And I came back and forth and I decided that I didn't really want to be an economist. I was studying to be an economist at University of Maryland, and I decided I really didn't want to do that. I was only doing that to avoid going to Vietnam.
And
Good
reason.
Yeah, it was a serious thing there because I was what was called a forward observer in the Army. They made me a second lieutenant. They gave me 2 bars of gold. They made me a forward observer. I lived to be 2 seconds old. The highest mortality rate in Vietnam, by far. And if they caught you, well, I won't tell you what your last meal was, but
it wasn't good.
It wasn't good, no.
So to put a little clarity around that, and this is because
it's a big dead jump.
Yeah, we go from the story goes as I remember it. You were in college during a time when the draft was happening, and they were pulling people out, taking them to Vietnam, and all you saw on the screen was people that are going to Vietnam coming back in body bags, and you figured you weren't going to Canada likely, or you weren't going to Mexico likely. So your way out was to be educated, and you continued to sign up for more and more education, and that led to a PhD in economics, which essentially kept you out of the war.
Very good.
Yeah. So,
but then you got the bug that Utah might be.
Well, I finally made it onto the faculty at University of Maryland, and I realized they weren't going to give me tenure. And so I said, I don't really want to be an economist. And I love skiing. So we came. And Diane and I had worked at a seasonal place, Ocean City, Maryland. And we liked the idea of having the summers off. So it was good. And they had the winters off in Ocean City, Maryland.
But I think it's hard. I've been in town long enough, obviously not nearly as long as you, but long enough to see a fair amount of change and a fair amount of change in why people move here and why they stay. And I think there is a flavor of probably why you stayed that is still around for people who are new to town, but it's a very different town. So what was it in the beginning that felt like it was a place you wanted to be?
Well, a lot of the men at that time when I moved here only had nicknames because they had moved to Park City to avoid going to Vietnam.
Oh.
So they never got their draft notices until the war was over. And anyway, so I found a lot of simpatico people who were like me, just abhorred by the experience of the Vietnam War and moved here to just check out a different kind of life.
Mm-hmm. So you found that you could do what you loved in the outdoors, like skiing, and
Yep.
you found community.
Yep. And bunch of, I've got several 50-year-plus friends who still live around here.
Mm.
Pretty amazing. And I haven't really assimilated very well.
What do you mean?
What's that mean?
Well, God, I was surprised. There are people who work for Delta who live here.
Oh,
I don't think I realized that, but I have a girlfriend who retired from Delta. And so I didn't know any Delta people, even though they were all here for 40 years. And we sort of stuck to ourselves and had this inbred group. And I understand we're going to have a gathering, I think it's tomorrow at the No Name on the upper deck there, in case any of you contemporaries are listening. Anyway, cool.
yeah. Okay, so you found your people.
Found my people, and I taught at University of Utah for a couple of years, but they didn't pay enough money, and so I decided I'd rather stay up here.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, can you take me through when you first got here, you taught at the U?
About the beginning of the second season, the first season, I was way busy. So from 75 through 78, I was on the faculty there. But
Okay.
I had a disagreement with them. I was teaching a course. I don't believe in macroeconomics, which is what you hear on the radio all the time, and they made me teach it. And that was like having to teach a lie because it all depends on expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a microeconomist.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I decided I didn't want to teach anymore.
Okay. So I have really enjoyed my experience driving around with Max and understanding the ways that you've had your hands in so many parts of town and seeing the through line between you can kind of, at least it's been fun for me to kind of be able to pick out the projects that you've had because there's common threads in the choices that you make. What was it that got you to be interested in what development in Park City could look like?
Well, I was speccing a house. It was the first house Max ever came home to.
Which was where?
It's at the northwest corner of the end of the driving range. It was recently demolished.
No.
I built it for $67,000 and sold it a year later for $167,000. And I thought that was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
So I decided that and selling real estate, I was making more money for my clients than I was making. So I thought, might as well try to get into it myself. So that's what.
So you were a realtor. So there's a story. This timeline's going to bounce around a little bit, which is fine. People can figure it out. But you started the corner store with your brother. You moved out here with Uncle Mike and Aunt Tony and my mom Diane, and you all started the corner store, which 30 years after you guys got out of it, I got into it. Or 30 years after, I don't know, something like that. 30 years after you started it, I came back into it, 2004. But there's a story that you tell me about the Park Avenue condos and about how you were at the corner store and there were some guys selling the Park Ave condos. I can't remember if it was Edgar Stern or somebody had them and he was liquidating them. And you asked these guys if they were selling them and they were getting a 3% commission on all the remaining units or something like that. Do you remember that story?
Oh, God, yeah. I was making hamburgers and I looked at these guys and they're making tens of thousands of dollars. And I decided, nah, I'm getting out of this business. And I had a ski bar at the time as well downstairs called Potato John's. And we sold both of them. And that was the last year that it didn't snow. I mean, the ski resort actually opened January 7th of 1977. So we sold months before we didn't have winter. And I just went, whew, lucky me.
Yep.
Anyway, and they sold, Edgar had been told that if he built all 144, it would cost him maybe, the second half of the units would cost him maybe a third less. So they bought all the materials and then they built them and then nobody bought. And he sold them at a discount. I think they sold for $42,000 lock, stock, and barrel, all the way down to the dishware and towels, and a bunch of people from Salt Lake bought them for the most part, and those guys made hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions. So I decided my die was cast.
Mhm. That math felt better than making hamburgers.
Surprised it took back so many years to realize this, to get into
Oh,
it.
well, we'll get into that too.
It's true, I dabbled in it.
Sorry, but I was a landlord. I was happy about it.
This is, it does dive into even the name of the show, Ski and Sell Out. It's just been such a part of my DNA for so long to cast aspersions at the real estate industry and at the whole concept of development around Park City, even though it shaped who I am. It's really been an interesting look in the mirror after 22 years of running a ski bar in Park City, doing some development deals with you along the way, doing some commercial real estate deals with Molly along the way, doing some residential deals on my own, a little bit of commercial stuff with Jonathan. It's interesting to wear all these hats and then get to sort of peel yourself out and look at it from 30,000 foot and say, okay, what out of all of these experiences resonates with me and how does my skill set benefit the community the best? And it's actually been really fun. Lauren and I've got to have a lot of these conversations, and it's really fun to think, oh, all of these things actually do work well together. In a few days, I'm emceeing an event for the Urban Land Institute, and Lauren's been kind of a fly on the wall for a few of our preparatory calls today, and I'm like, oh yeah, my family participated in building 850 single-family home residences around here. You were on council and had land management uh, impacts. I was on council, had those same impacts. Like, the small business piece plays in, understanding how this town works. It does speak to how much smarter you are than most of the most of the rooms I'm in. I find myself leaning into some of your old adages, leaning into a lot of your old advice. And yeah, so you figured it out in 3 years. I figured it out in 30 or whatever. It seems like the math. Well, the math is mathing for me.
I gotta interrupt for a second. So I only skied Deer Valley these days because, well, when I was at visiting Max up there at Montana State once, a snowboarder flew over my head. And I decided I didn't want to be with snowboarders. So I'm riding a chairlift, and there's some guy, a billionaire. I mean, I have a couple on the street, riding, and he's telling me about how the big problems he has in life is hiring CFOs for his CEOs for his companies and all that. And he's bragging about how much money he made. And being the guy I am, I said, well, how are you going to get it back? He said, get back what? I said, the years you spent accumulating all that money while I was down here skiing. And he'd say, got to get off this chair.
Yeah. Get away from
he was feeling really good about himself until he met me.
That's funny. Well, okay, I have to call out before I forget. Max, it feels like I just heard your process come out of your dad's mouth. And yes, the years are different, but when he said, I'm down here making hamburgers and these guys are making lots of money, what am I doing? I'm pretty sure I witnessed that happening in the last handful of years.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt. And look, it's actually been, for me, it's been fun, right? I like looking at the whole playing field and feeling really comfortable with decisions and change. I've never been opposed to change. I mean, I also started businesses that failed, right? Or didn't make it for a variety of reasons. Nature's Wraps and Corner Sports and, a development consulting company. And I mean, I've done a lot of different things that I think I lean into. You learn a lot more from your failures than you do your successes. And they guide you into the thing that, you enjoy the most. And this is the thing I judge the most, which is the thing I've actually learned to enjoy the most, which I think all lines up with all the old adages you hear, and it lines up with a lot of the advice I've gotten from my dad and his peer group, who whenever I see them around town, I always lean in because I want to talk to these people who had a hand in making Park City what it is, and it even happened today on a phone call. We got a referral to help. We have somebody who's interested in the Jess Reed building. And I'm like, "Oh, man, I saw Jess at Saltbox, and I told him I wanted to interview him for the book, and he's ready and willing, and, I mean, he's got an impact. He's been around here forever."
By the way, I call him Jeff.
I mean, you've only known each other for 50 years, so why not?
We were driving back from Aspen, where we'd gone over there to try to form some collaboration selling real estate. And we were going down the road near Rifle, where that crazy congresswoman's from. And there was a house on fire. And flames coming out of the roof, and we go, holy. And we run over there, and the people are still inside. We rouse them, and they get out. We start moving the furniture out. Pretty soon, the fire department shows up. We drove away. I mean,
What? When was this?
77 or 78.
Oh my God, Jim.
I mean, you have to
Get
ask.
up, your house is on fire.
You got to ask him about it.
I'll ask him. He'll be on here. We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him.
Okay, something that just came to my mind that I would love to hear from you, because part of what has come out of this podcast that I love is there are people in town who have been here for 30 years, and there are people in town who have been here for 3 years. And the feedback that I personally get from friends is that they learn a lot about this town or the people that they know that they never expect to learn, right? We hear stories, we hear history that people don't talk about as much, or there's like, you can go and find it. The museum does some good job, a good job about documenting some Park City history, but you have a cohort or a peer group who has been the most influential in this town, probably than anything else or anybody else.
I think we all smoke more dope than the rest of the people who moved our
Maybe
sins.
that's why you've had the most impact.
That's in my past now, but yeah.
Yeah, right.
So,
Okay.
do you feel like there's another generation who is taking the reins well? Or, I mean, it feels like a big shift since.
I really thank the people who are in elective office. I think they all have the city's best interest at heart. And when I got off the city council, it had been such a hard job where 51% of the people like you and 49 hate you most of the time. And when I got off, I said, I don't care how you vote, what you do. If you're not stealing from me, thank you. And I feel like we have people who have the community's interest at heart, and they're gradually finding their way. So thank you for working for it, guys. By the way, if I want some favors, I'll call you up about this.
I think that
Those are
most of the elected officials over the last, 20 years know that the Doilney family's not afraid to call and let them know what our opinion is on any particular subject.
Oh, man. It's crazy. Well, I want to go back to early years a little bit.
Yes, please.
So in 1973, I was coming out here to finish getting the lease ready for the corner store, and they were building the Marsac building. And they had a hot dog ski contest, which is what preceded freestyle. And there was a network of skiers who went around the country skiing and doing crazy things. And when the ski competition was over and they were leaving town, 3 married women left with the skiers. And, that's it was a wild place all the way around. I mean, it was crazy. And so after I opened the bar, Potato John's, which was first day of the year, the guy who had painted it said that he wanted to be the bartender. And I said, Ski Boy, you're not going to be the bartender. He says, I'll be the bartender. I'll kill you. I said, I'd rather be dead.
Oh.
Anyway, he killed himself a couple years later. But there were a lot of crazy people then, and a lot of people. It was
the Wild West.
Yeah, it was really crazy, and we really did have wet T-shirt contest. I was a judge.
Oh, you weren't a contestant?
I was told that I should never run for office because people had pictures.
Oh,
they're in the museum now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, where was Potato John's in where the quarter store is?
The store downstairs.
The store downstairs.
Yeah, we had a big screen TV, and a guy who still lives in town, Craig Reese, a nice guy. He was the captain video, and he'd be on the mountain videoing skiers, and then we'd all go down and sit in the
Watch.
bar, and we'd watch ourselves on the big screen.
Oh my
It
god.
was fun. It was really
It was
crazy.
ahead of its time. I would say it was ahead of its time. Like your first large scale project was Sunnyside Up. Is that correct? Like that was ahead of its time too. I'm thinking about people like to watch themselves, right? They have
Yeah.
GoPros, they have all these things, and
Yeah.
and I'm perpetually perplexed by that. I'm like, really? Are you going on ski vacation and then you go home and you're going to watch yourself at night? Like, no offense, but nobody wants to see that.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. So I'm dumbfounded by it, but it happens a lot. But I can see watching everybody in the bar after skiing. That to me seems a little Warren Miller-esque, right? Only in real
Yes.
time.
Yes.
And I love the
Pre-warning.
idea of captain video, right? Where you have a cape with a big C on the back of it and a guy skiing around with a big old C on the
It was fun.
Oh my god.
Oh, man. The first day we sold 17 kegs of beer. If you've ever heard of a keg, you know what a keg is. And so
Do
it's
people not know what kegs are anymore?
well, I don't know, but I just know there's a lot of beer in them. And so it's 2 a.m. and I finally chased all the people out of there. And you can imagine with 17 kegs of beer, I mean, there's
Yeah.
piss and vomit and, all kinds of things on the floor.
17 kegs of beer on one evening.
One evening. Well, you can imagine what kind of party it was.
Whoa, baby.
ski boy almost became the bartender.
Yeah, I said, no, we had enough crazy people already. And so I'm on the other side of the bar with the bartender, a guy named Pat Brennan, who's still a friend of mine. And I see this guy swinging a crutch at Pat Brennan's head.
Oh.
And I dive over the bar, and I'm wrestling in the piss and vomit on the floor. And I go, I'm selling this place, man. I don't want to. But
that's enough.
it was that kind of a place. I mean, people really, all those things really happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there were a variety of things that led to you getting out of that business after 3 years that I didn't experience for my first 22.
I don't know. You had some wild times in the beginning. I have to.
We did, but we don't need to talk about those here. We're here to interview Papa Jim.
Hey, I made a deal with Max when he was growing up that if he didn't get arrested more times than me, it would be okay.
Oh.
And so,
How'd he do?
well, we were both 3 for 3. We're getting bailed out.
So you tied.
Yeah.
Was there a tie clause in this agreement?
No, but he didn't want to talk to his mother about it. So he would always come home and say, Dad already took care of it.
Yeah.
We had a deal. I was like, Dad took care of it, and I
Yeah.
just kept moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Onward.
Don't stop your feet from moving. I do have the international arrest under my belt, though.
Oh.
That's the next
Oh,
episode.
yeah.
Next
so
episode.
we're down in Baja. You got to hear this. We're down in Baja, and Molly and one of her girlfriends went down with Diane and me and Max. And they all get up and they're going to go to the beach, but Max is not back from the night before. And they said, well, we're going to go to the beach. I said, I think I'm going to hang around. And I just walked around and say,
What?
I can't remember the Spanish words, but basically I said, has anybody seen my son, Maxwell? And finally somebody did. And we turned out he was in jail in downtown Cabo.
Okay.
And I found the oldest clothes I could find. I took a little bit of cash, and I found a cab driver, and he drove me down there, and I gave him $50. And I said, you can keep whatever we don't have to pay the jailer to get him out. So Max got out for $37.50, and the cab driver got $12.50.
It's pretty good.
Hey, sorry to go down that road.
No,
a
it's
good
fine.
cabbie.
It's
No, I like
a
it.
remarkable. Yeah, I mean, just a word to the wise: when you're getting arrested in Mexico and they try and get you to sign something, don't sign it. But also, don't dive on the table and clean the entire desk off. That's how I got chucked in the plane.
Yeah.
Well, and I asked him when we picked him up, I said, what'd you do? He said, I wasn't doing anything.
I did nothing wrong.
I said, where do you want to go? He says, we need to take a pizza back to the guys in jail.
Did you?
Yeah, we fed them all.
That's
We
right.
don't get food. But back to Park City.
Hey,
All roads come
it
back.
used to be that when the ski lifts closed, we all went to Mexico. Everybody went to Mexico, or you rode the rivers. Anyway,
And now people are still doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a destination.
Before we started recording, Jim and I were talking about my old boss, Dean, at the ski shop, which the first 3 seasons, I think, I worked for him. He would send us all to Mexico at the end of the season, pay for everything.
Cool.
Flights, all-inclusive hotel. I love saying that now because I'll have 20-somethings look at me and go, what? Your boss did what? I'm like, yeah, there was 20 of us he would just send. It was amazing.
Dean is a fantastic human being. I love him.
That was a pretty common thing around Park City for the off seasons for businesses that did well on Main Street.
Yeah.
There were a lot of, it wasn't always Mexico, but there was always a lot of go down to the desert and everybody get together. We even did it at the corner store a little bit in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It was selfish because we were having fun too, but that is definitely something that has gone by the wayside. That quality of life of being a ski bum in this town.
Work hard, play hard.
Yeah. Dad, what do you think about how that element has changed in Park City? Do you feel it at all with your current situation? Did you feel it when you were in construction and doing these developments? Like, how did that jive for you in terms of like providing for employees, keeping things rolling?
I'm just really proud of it all. This house, I wasn't the contractor on. It's too nice. I built houses for people who got W-2s, and I just couldn't deal with people coming in and saying, I changed my mind on what color I want that couch to be, or whatever it was. I said, no, you're getting the one you signed for, and so I don't know. But the thing I really celebrate is like at Deer Valley, I see all these people who are my contemporaries working in the ski valet. And these guys, they've retired, they're living large, and even though they had to wait till they were 55 or 60 to get out of it, they retired here, and they're still skiing. I love it. We have so many people who are my age who are living really well in this town. I think it's really cool.
And a lot of them live in product that you built.
That's true.
We go into a lot of...
True.
Lauren has lived in a house that you built. I've lived in a house you built.
My first house.
You don't even live in a house you built. What the hell?
Well, he built this house.
No, he didn't.
Well, yeah. It's,
What did you build? How about go through that for us a little bit? Like when you go back and think about some of the developments and the impact that they've had on this community, if you had to pick one that you think, had the greatest impact from just a impact perspective, when you drive around, you go, there's the one, or one that you feel like, there's one that got away.
Oh man. I think starting at the end, Newpark is my swan song. And that's a place where you can live, work, play, shop, dine, stay, study without getting in a car. And it was recognized as a LEED, LEED for neighborhood development, a model for future growth. I'm really proud of it. Before I became a developer and decided, I hated developers until I became one. And I built a project called Sunnyside Up, which, the name was conceived in a different state of mind. And it's 6 passive solar, earth-integrated townhomes that are on the entrance to Deer Valley. They're on the hillside to your left as you drive into Deer Valley. They heat and cool themselves with no moving parts. The natural gas company didn't believe it was going to work, and they put thermocouples throughout the buildings, and it was minus 30 degrees, and inside the coldest place was 57 degrees. Oh, so we had no moving parts, just things that worked in terms of materials and so on. So I'm really proud of that. That was pretty cool.
So that's the beginning and the end, right? So you started and finished with a whole bunch in the middle where you learned a lot of lessons.
Hold on, pause. Sunnyside Up was your first project.
Well, I built a project called 14th Street Townhouses, which is on 14th Street, and there's 5 townhouses. And I did that earlier. And then before that, I had some house in Prospector that I built. And I built my own house that Max grew up in terms of general contracting, because the general contractor was charging aluminum siding on my account, and it was a redwood house, and I fired him on the spot, and I had to learn how to contract. So anyway, that's really where it started, contracting.
And then that moved into Sunnyside Up. What was the impetus for the passive solar thing? Was that just you
Well-
felt like you needed to do
Well,
better, or you thought there was some value there? Like what? And explain what passive solar is. It's essentially no moving parts. The house or the unit heats and cools itself so that it's comfortable to live in without having to burn gas, without having to blow air, without having to do any of those things. It kind of maintains the temperature, right?
that's more or less the story. There's a slight deal, like with moving parts. I had one moving part, well, two, in this building. One was a curtain that rolled down. So when the sun came out, it flipped a switch by increasing pressure in this copper tube, and the curtains all went up, and then the sun could shine. And then when the sun went in, the curtains all went down. And they had an R14 on that wall. So that wall and another wall next to it absorbed the heat and didn't lose it.
Which is the house we grew up in. So you built that house first, right? Sort of the test project was the single family home that we grew up in Park Meadows.
Okay.
Right between what is now the Mormon Church and the Mark facility.
Yes.
And I remember this is how I remember some of this stuff, and this is how far back it goes. I learned passive solar lessons by my dad hung this big horse mural on my wall next to my bed, and he would come in and he'd be reading me bedtime stories, and he'd be like, "Did the horse fart?" And he'd put his hand on the wall, and if he knew if it had been hot that day, the wall would be warm, and the curtain was down, and it's cold outside. It's middle of winter, and the wall's warm, and it's emitting a low level of heat that keeps the room at a perfect temperature. So I don't remember ever, as a child, ever dealing with a thermostat, ever. That's something that came along later in life for me. And then he built Sunnyside Up based on that house. Is that correct?
There were some experiments that you had to live with in that house. And then Sunnyside Up was the follow-up. And then what happened is it took me a long time to convince banks to lend me money for a passive solar Earth integrated project. And finally, I did. And the first, I'm getting off the topic perhaps, I don't know, but the bids came in and it was excavation and foundation work, concrete work. Both were at twice what I had in the budget. And I knew that wasn't going to work out well with the bank because they were reluctant to lend me money anyway. And so I had to go to Salt Lake. I leased a backhoe, leased a bulldozer. I rented concrete forms. And then I came up to Park City and hired some job service guys, and we figured it out.
Are any of the houses that you built in Prospector passive solar?
No, they came earlier. Those were active solar in the late 70s. And yep. But passive solar at that time was taking off. Now we have, of course, with photovoltaics, I mean, the whole solar industry has changed totally.
So just to be clear, there's an entire project hanging on the hill above the road up to Deer Valley that was excavated, and the foundations were poured by somebody who just rented the forms and rented the concrete.
Yes,
indeed.
Excavation equipment.
It was funny.
Okay, check.
What are you going to do? You have no choice. I mean, it was a little bit dangerous, but no, it was when the sewer inspector came out there, he was a friend of mine. He said, this is because I put in my own manholes. I did the whole thing. And he sees the lines. He said, "This is the worst sewer line I have ever seen."
Did he still pass you off, though?
He said, "But it's downhill. I know it's going to work. I'm going to pass you because I like you." And,
He's like, "I'm going to the desert. Get this thing buried before somebody sees it."
Yeah, exactly. And but
amazing.
that's the important thing. I listened to your guy last week talking about how you had to know where things were and how you get started in construction. You can't shitter.
Mhm.
And, so people, I knew how everything worked. And consequently, I was able to design projects that were very, very cost effective and sell them for less than anybody else did. And that's why they didn't hire me for my personality. I can assure you of that.
Okay, well, let me pick because it was where I bought my first house,
Where,
Blackhawk.
uh-huh.
What
Cool.
what was your actually, well, I don't know. We can go into that, but wh- what was interesting for you about the Blackhawk project?
Well, I had built a project in Salt Lake City, which taught me how learned how to build really fast. Um, and so I realized that people didn't get along.
Yeah.
And so in Blackhawk, we put side yard fences in. We had the front yard landscaping done. We would put photovoltaic sensors on the garage lights, and we didn't have any street lights because other people fight about whose street light is
Yep.
shining where.
Yep.
Well, nobody knew they were paying for the street light on their garage.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved it, and then people got along because we took away all the things that you fight about. Like you can make your mess in the backyard. We're going to make sure your front yard works and the grass is mowed.
Yep.
So that was a cool system, I think.
It's a cool neighborhood for sure. We, like many things, should have never sold that house. But I will say there was, when we moved in there, my daughter was 6 months old.
Wow.
And there was a little bit of this feeling of joy that I would get when I would hear the lawn crew that was paid for by the HOA come and mow the front yard and trim the trees and clean everything up. And I was like, oh, this is living.
Absolutely.
This is easy.
Max had a house there for a while, but they fined him $50 for leaving his garbage can out too long.
Oh, yeah.
And
We got
he
similar
said,
notices.
Who made these rules? And of course, I made the rule because I know how people are going to fight about
That's
this
true.
stuff. So we get rid of all the points of conflict.
Yep.
You
That's true.
I remember sending that one as a joke. I sent you the bill for $50. And I came into your office one day and you said, yeah, I got this bill from you. I don't think I'm going to pay it. And I was like, I know you're not going to pay it. But I was pissed that I got charged $50 for leaving my trash can out a day too long.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important. I mean, doing everything you can to reduce conflict among people is an important goal in life. I would try to not leave any enemies.
Well, that is a good question is, do you think, maybe this is more Max can answer this because maybe you don't want to be biased, but I think it's unique for a developer to have that mindset.
Well, we're here to make a difference.
Do you think that's how many developers think?
No.
No.
But I was an environmentalist. My PhD is in environmental economics, and
Mm-hmm.
I even published in that area. And I never have understood how people can make a change in the world that's irreversible. How you could eliminate the last specimens of a species. I just don't understand where people come from.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point?
Mm.
Anyway, that's just how I feel about it. And then I felt like on the housing front, I wanted to build for people who needed housing.
Mm-hmm.
So I built things that were, well, at the time Blackhawk was being built, Park City's affordable housing standard would have allowed all of Blackhawk to qualify as affordable housing.
Yeah. My overlay with that is when we were looking for our first house to buy, we were living up on Daly. Snow Creek, is that where Summer and Dave live? Snow Creek was in the works as one of the first affordable housing single family projects that I remember from my early days here. And we looked into it, and my husband and I having, I think I don't know how much money I made, but us having kind of like normal people jobs, we would qualify for affordable housing. But if we borrowed money for the down payment, that counted as whatever income, and it kicked us out of the ability to buy an affordable house.
Yep.
And Blackhawk was our option that felt like a fantastic option.
It was
because
affordable.
It was affordable. Yeah.
Myself and a partner built something called Newpark Studios,
Uh-huh.
and there are 38 units that are basically just single person occupancy.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's right by Basin Rack, right?
yeah, and
Mhm.
the income, qualifying income, like right now they're talking about 40 to 80% of the area median income. We started at 35%
Mm-hmm.
to 40%. And it truly is affordable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, how speak to your your participation in open space acquisitions and your relationship with infinite sum growth or and open space acquisitions and its impact on housing prices.
Well, I think basically we can't spread out. I know you have 40 acres. I won't hold that against you. But, we have to have a little bit of density to reduce traffic, and you have to properly place things next to each other. That's why Newpark works.
Mm-hmm.
And on the affordable part, on the open space, like one of Max's friends says, "Well, what are the poor people going to do?" I said, "Well, we're going to have poor people whether we save open space or not, but let's save some open space."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really proud of that, and I was on the Citizens Open Space Advisory Council, COSAC they called it, Advisory Committee. And and it wasn't me. There's many, many people around here. They're on the radio all the time. They're great friends that were on that committee with me. But during the 6 years I was on it, the city bought over $100 million worth of open space.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't think they've ever bought any since, but I really believe that open space is the one legacy we're going to leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be here if we protect it.
And so the infinite sum growth thing, if I may.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's great that you spoke to exactly what I was looking to get into. The infinite sum growth thing is essentially a model by which you can perpetually grow both in density and in open space dedications. So, for instance, if you take Newpark and you dedicated the Swanner Nature Preserve and a whole bunch of space between Kimball Junction and Jeremy Ranch as permanent open space conservation easements, I think is how most of those are. But you put all that density into smaller areas, then those areas could be redeveloped in some form in the future, but they got to be rehabilitated. You can't just go out and build more and more and more and keep sprawling. You have to reuse the space you have, and potentially with population growth, we may have to add more people into those zones. Is that partly what you're talking about?
Yeah, it started with, you've heard of carbon trading.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my mentor in graduate school was a guy named Charlie Schultz. He invented pollution trading. He said, if it costs me $1,000 per ounce to get rid of arsenic, and you can do it for $10 an ounce, how about if you let me keep doing the arsenic I'm doing, and I'll give this guy who spends $10, he'll save a lot more arsenic. So we would trade open space preservation, if you will, in exchange for concentrating density.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Newpark's about. That's why Blackhawk is contained the way it is.
Yep.
And, I basically lived what I believed.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I made money in between,
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately I wasn't able to keep most of it, but
Where'd it go, Jim?
yeah. Well, I'm on, anyway, I have two wonderful ex-wives, and they're situated very well.
There have been some purchases in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
Okay, hold on. I have to go to this route. You moved Park City at a time where it looked very different than it does now, and you grew up on the East Coast. What has your experience been like raising two kids in this town? Very different from where you grew up and very different from where it started.
I think it's been wonderful. Just amazing to be able to have your children go to school and get out a half day skiing and to be happy and not to have I mean, not that I don't think when you grew up we ever had a key to our house. I don't think we ever did. And, it's kind of nice to live in an environment like that. And, we don't have much of that left,
Mm.
but cherish what remains and
Mhm.
make the best of it.
Well, we interviewed Molly a while ago, and she mentioned how, Blackhawk Station and your capability to give us, you know, through purchasing houses through the company that you had and then leasing them back from us. You bought those houses at cost or below cost, and then you were able to basically hand them off to Molly and I with rental income, so we never had to call you for money while we were gone, even though we did anyway. Let's be honest. But we did get to start setting up our system early through access here,
Mhm.
and then we both leveraged that initial gift into where we currently are. I mean,
Yeah.
neither of us would be where we are without that initial gift. Regardless of how talented we think we are, we wouldn't have been able to be as free as we are without that initial housing gift that came from your work.
Well, there were strings along the way, like, Max had to get put into a boarding school one year
Mhm.
when he came in with 4 Fs and a D minus,
Mhm.
and I moved him to a Wasatch Academy.
It's hard work to do
Yeah,
that bad.
yeah, it was really and, so they didn't get it for free. They basically worked, and, I'm proud of them, and, they haven't when you actually have a home that people don't come back and move into, that's pretty cool. You'll find out later when your kids get older, Lauren, but,
Mhm.
that finally, anyway. So
Finally, we're not moving back in.
no,
Yeah.
you're not moving back in, although Max did
I was
come
gonna
back
say
in
you had
when
a
his
little
house
stint here recently.
well, for a long time, I had a dog door, but I didn't have a dog.
Oh my gosh.
So now I have a dog. So, yeah, that worked out really well.
Yeah, that was because we moved in here for a short time while our house was being remodeled, and we brought the dog, and then we all left, and the dog door stayed.
Yeah.
But Papa Jim has always been super accommodating, and it was fun
Mhm.
to live in Old Town for a minute.
I love it. I love it. Plus, I mean, I have a fire pole.
You
That
do
you
have a
can
fire pole.
Yeah, that's true.
We might have to show a video of that later.
If you'd like your ankles, I would suggest not doing the fire pole, but, hey,
Hey,
whatever.
I'll go if you want to go.
I'm not gonna take responsibility for that, Jim.
Oh, man.
So Dad, now you see Molly and I both selling real estate in Park City in a community that you've had a heavy impact on. Jake is the broker. Jonathan and Molly and me are all in the game now. And you're watching the numbers tick up in terms of what people are spending on housing around here. How does it feel other than, do better than Caleb and Lucia do with how was your day at school? Good. Like what does it feel like to know that you had an impact on all of us and now we're all working for the same company and we're all basically in the same game that you've been in forever, advising people on their construction, helping them find their homes, helping them not make bad decisions when they move to Park City, and then also selling this town because it continues to be a really wonderful place to be.
Wow. I feel incredibly blessed. I mean, to have the um, good fortune of, Mike, my brother, and I felt like Park City was really going to take off with the airport and
Mhm.
I-80, which was just going in at that time,
Mhm.
that we figured, how can we go wrong? He was teaching at the University of Maryland as well. And when my dad moved out here, came out for the summer, and he said, "My God, I spent my whole life working to get you boys an education, and you moved to this dump?"
Yeah.
And then he quickly came out here for the summer for like 30 years, so he got into it too. Anyway, I don't know what the question was
Well,
exactly,
it's
but
just that, we're all working in this
oh,
industry and
family. I am lucky. I have I have 10 grandchildren, really, 4 blood, 1 adopted, and 5 bonus grandchildren that came in as a result of Molly getting divorced from my best friend, and, then they both got remarried, and they brought their kids in. They're my bonus grandchildren,
Mhm.
and over time, all of them have lived within a mile of me. I mean,
Ugh,
how can you do better than that?
you can't.
I mean, you go a mile from your house, there won't be anything, still.
It's true.
Yeah.
Still be
Anyway,
walking
so
with you.
I'm so proud of the fact that I fostered harmony,
Mhm.
among people, and, I just don't want to go to bed angry with anybody ever, you
Mhm.
know? So, anyway, family. It's a really cool place to raise a family.
Well, it's a cool place, and I think it's at least from what I hear and see, just being in proximity of your family is, um, you have done a very honorable job at living what you preach pretty much. I mean, what's important to you, you have around you and you've spent your life doing. And I think your kids and now grandkids have taken that on themselves. And so, of course, they want to be here.
It's not over yet, Lauren, even though you're looking at me that way.
It's not over yet, but
No,
here they are.
here we are. No, I'm really proud. I couldn't be happier to be in Park City, and I would have no trouble whatsoever selling Park City real estate, except I don't need the money. And
Right.
it's just that if I were a billionaire, what more would you hope for than to buy a house
Hmm.
that you told everybody they can come use, and your kids have holidays here and they have all these common experiences? My God, how else would you spend your money? What else is
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
than fostering family and friendships?
Well, I mean, I think that is an interesting through line between many of our conversations about Park City is the town seems to gather people who to choose where they live because of the place, not because of the job necessarily, and they make the place work for them. And I don't think that that is necessarily common, especially in talking with my parents' generation. Usually, it was the job takes you wherever and you make it work. I think Park City has been a very special place for a lot of people because of what it is as a town and who it attracts and the community that you can build within it. And I do think, the years that you moved here, that is why people moved here. And I think that foundation has set some really important parts of this community that we still see. I mean, I'll give a shout out to my friend Jason who listens to the podcast. They moved here from Boulder just a few years ago. And that is what they have found in this community. And it's part of why he loves listening to the podcast because the history of this town is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there are a number of through lines that Lauren and I continue to learn through doing this podcast, and one of them is we're not really selling houses, we're selling Park City,
Hmm.
and it's not a hard place to sell because you drive around and there's something for everybody, and there continues to be more for even more people, and that's what you basically have said as well throughout our life here is, "Look, people are gonna come here because it's easy to get to. The climate is unbelievable. The systems that we have put in place serve most of the people, and they continue to serve more and more. And I think Lauren and I are finding that in the feedback we get about the podcast, the feedback we get about Park City in general, and even some of the conversations we have at the brokerage when we talk about what we're actually selling. You're really selling the place,
Hmm.
and, the house is just sort of it's sort of the outfit that you're wearing, and it can be seasonal. Around here, we're lucky because in this business, people do change their mind about what kinda house they wanna wear for a while. They just do, they wanna move, and they like something new, and we're happy to help facilitate that, so don't hesitate to reach out.
Did you hear that? Your
I
son's always
Hey,
working.
we're always selling, let's face it.
Always
Yeah,
selling.
nothing happens until somebody sells something.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
really,
Well, some of real quick, I want to hit two things just before we leave. So, the $100 million plus in open space that you are involved in also needs to be highlighted along with the developments that you put into place, because I think it's really important. People are curious. You say you build 850 single family residences. So I'm not going to list them all, but some of the ones that people experience on a regular basis: Newpark, the Swanner Nature Preserve, that is preserved in perpetuity because of you and the partnership that you worked with. Water companies that serve Pine Brook and Jeremy Ranch and these areas exist because of development deals that happened and consolidation of water companies that allow for the water to always flow where there were times when that didn't happen. Bonanza Flats, Treasure Hill. We're talking about places where people walk their dogs, where people go for the serenity, for the peace and quiet in their mind that they need. The places that people are proximate to where they can escape. And they're there because of developers. They're there because people put thought into how they put density in certain places so that they could dedicate that open space. Those places were slated for development. Let's be honest. And they were saved because people who understand development stepped in and did the right thing or did the thing that the community wanted. So I just think it's important that people understand all these people who have been here for a long time have done really well on Park City. They also created this space that makes it a comfortable place to move to. And they give you your peace and quiet. They give you the trails and the open space and the radio station and the good school systems and the 120 nonprofits that are in town exist and are held up by people who created this town. And so, yeah, we do owe a debt of gratitude to your generation for building the place that we all get to love right now.
Okay, the other thing that keeps coming up, and I don't know why, but has been circling, is will you tell the story, and Max has told me a little bit of it, about your commitment to the Park City School District or what?
Ed Foundation.
Oh,
The Ed
man.
Foundation? What
Well-
was that?
Well, there was a time when I went to California and did some development near Santa Rosa and Hillsburg. And at that time in California, you had to make school mitigation contributions of $2,000 a house. So when I came back here and building houses, I thought that's a good idea. And so I made voluntary contributions, and people started following this. And then eventually it became the law in Summit County.
Yeah.
And so we had voluntary obligations. And it turned out that the governor called a special session so they could outlaw school mitigation fees. I'm really proud of that. And anyway, they outlawed school mitigation fees. All the fees had to be given back to people who had paid them. And when I got my money back, I decided to create the Teaching Excellence Awards with that money.
Yep.
And that's the genesis of it. And gosh, I mean, it's like, it's incredibly gratifying to see continue all these years.
Okay, so hold on, just to make sure I understand. Well, was that tied to a specific project when you started that mitigation?
Yeah, well, at that time, we did it at Southbridge and Pinebrook Cottages.
Okay.
Yeah, there were several projects around there.
But then when it was
outruled,
outlawed and you got all that money back.
I did not. No, everybody who bought a house said they deserve all the money. And then the people who were my partners and investors said they deserve all the money. And so they all kept it. But when I got mine, I decided that I would start these Teaching Excellence Awards instead. And so I couldn't be prouder of that. And I don't think, the people who make a big difference in your life, you can't even name them.
Sure.
Think about your school teachers. I mean, I only recall a couple names. It's just incredible the difference teachers make, and they just don't get enough credit. And I know they enjoy it, and it's very much more rewarding than land raping like what I've done. But, it's cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, it's good. These are the stories that I am so interested in, and I hope that as a town, we are doing a good job of collecting that history because there is so much in Park City that just happens. There's so many organizations. There's so much. As a community, I think we are pretty generous. However, the infrastructure is there from your generation of people who felt passionate about certain things that were important to them. And that I think as a town we can kind of take for granted because it's just there. But to hear the history of it is really
Well, we have some wonderful people of your generation who are taking charge, and I'm just delighted to see people continue to put forth. Anyway, there's lots of controversies about everything. I just try to stay out of it.
stay out of the fray.
Well, I think that's a good way to end. Stay out of the fray, try and do some good, uh, and be thankful for the people who did good that came before you because
Yep.
they really have set a pretty good example, especially in Park City. Other mountain towns have similar systems, and Lauren and I look to lean into that in the future. We're going to go look around at some of the other mountain communities and find the Jim Doilneys of those communities. But for today, thanks for coming on,
Hey,
Dad.
I am
Thank you,
totally
Jim.
honored. Thank you for taking the time and doing this good work. I'm really happy
It's
about
really fun. It's really
is really
fun.
fun.
So, yeah, well, that's Ski and Sell Out. And until next time.
it. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.